On a sweltering summer evening in late July 2023, the bustling studio of one of America's top national networks was electric with anticipation. The live broadcast of American Realities was proceeding according to plan when, in a split second, an incident unfolded that would etch itself into the memory of millions of viewers. The show's host, Jonathan Miller, a well-known television personality famed for his blunt manner and propensity for stirring controversy, suddenly directed his attention to Melania Trump. Seated in a specially arranged segment of the studio, Melania was quietly confident, a figure whose every appearance had long captured the public's eye. At that moment, as the camera zoomed in on Melania's composed expression, Jonathan launched into a tirade. With a tone that combined sarcasm and overt disdain, he began to scrutinize the cross she wore, a symbol he claimed was outdated and ill-suited to the modern American woman. "Why, Melania, would you choose such an old-fashioned emblem?" he demanded, his words slicing through the live feed like a deliberate provocation. The question, posed with the air of an unassailable truth, left the studio in stunned silence. Some crew members exchanged uneasy glances, while others braced for what was coming next. In the blink of an eye, social media platforms ignited with the image of that very moment, each viewer compelled to share their shock and outrage. In the control room, producers scrambled to manage the fallout as Jonathan continued his monologue, his remarks growing increasingly pointed and rehearsed. His message was clear. He believed that in today's dynamic culture, symbols like the cross had no place in defining a modern identity. Meanwhile, the camera lingered on Melania, capturing every nuance of her reaction. Though she maintained an outward calm, there was an unmistakable spark in her eyes, a silent promise that she would not be cowed by the host's incendiary rhetoric. As the broadcast unfolded, viewers at home began to ask themselves whether this was an intentional personal attack or a calculated bid for sensational ratings. Throughout the studio, the atmosphere shifted from excitement to tension. Crew members huddled near the monitors, silently pleading for the segment to come to an end before the situation escalated further. Jonathan's relentless questioning, punctuated by dismissive gestures, seemed designed to rattle not only Melania but the entire audience. In one corner of the set, Aghast, a local celebrity known for his offbeat humor, attempted to break the tension with a nervous laugh, only to be met with sharper criticism from Jonathan. Every word, every gesture was broadcast live, and within minutes, the incident had transcended the confines of the studio. Social media users, armed with smartphones and laptops, quickly began dissecting every frame of the broadcast. Hashtags such as #RespectMelania, #TraditionMatters, and #LiveTVDrama trended nationwide, igniting debates across Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. In living rooms and cafes across America, people gathered around televisions and devices, their discussions echoing in coffee shops and workplaces alike. What began as a seemingly isolated moment of on-air incivility had morphed into a national conversation about the place of tradition in contemporary society and the responsibilities of those who command the airwaves. Within the first few minutes, major news websites were ablaze with headlines dissecting the host's comments. Opinion columns emerged, penned by media critics and cultural commentators who debated whether Jonathan's line of inquiry was a fair critique of outdated symbolism or a deliberate personal affront. Some argued that the host's remarks were an overreach, a betrayal of journalistic integrity in favor of shock value. Others contended that his probing questions were a necessary challenge to relics of the past, stirring a debate that reflected America's evolving cultural landscape. In the midst of the chaos, the studio's technical staff struggled to regain control over the live feed. The soundboard was frantically adjusted, and producers exchanged hurried instructions in an effort to steer the program back on course. Yet, the damage had been done. The scathing remark aimed at Melania's cross had not only jolted the viewers, but had also set off a chain reaction of public discourse that would continue well beyond that fateful evening. That single charged moment on live television, the moment when Jonathan Miller's provocations clashed with Melania Trump's dignified silence, became a defining point in an unfolding drama that questioned the balance between modernity and tradition. As the evening drew on and the initial shock faded, the incident left an indelible mark on American media and culture. It was a stark reminder of the power of live television to capture, reflect, and even shape the collective conscience of a nation. Almost immediately following Jonathan's incendiary remarks, the reaction across the United States was swift and multifaceted. Within minutes of the broadcast, digital platforms were inundated with posts, tweets, and live videos, capturing the moment in vivid detail. The conversation exploded online, with social media users dissecting every word and analyzing the tone of the host's commentary. Hashtags like hashtag defend Melania and hashtag old is gold clashed with others such as hashtag free speech matters and hashtag no to sensationalism, highlighting a sharp division in public sentiment. Newsrooms across the country were quick to react. Major networks and online outlets scrambled to publish analysis and opinion pieces. Media critics and scholars of communication weighed in, emphasizing that the incident underscored a broader cultural conflict, a tug-of-war between the enduring influence of traditional symbols and the relentless push toward modernization. In editorial meetings and panel discussions, experts debated whether Jonathan Miller's approach represented a dangerous escalation in sensationalist broadcasting, one that risked trivializing deeply held personal beliefs for the sake of ratings. Political figures, too, entered the fray. In Washington, D.C., senators and congressmen from both major parties issued statements condemning the breach of decorum on live television. Some argued that the episode was a stark example of how media personalities, in their relentless pursuit of higher ratings, sometimes cross ethical boundaries. Others defended the host's right to challenge conventional norms, arguing that such debates were essential in a vibrant democracy. Across state capitals, local officials held press conferences, calling for a review of broadcast standards and urging television networks to exercise greater caution when dealing with sensitive cultural issues. Within media circles, the incident ignited a fierce internal debate. Veteran journalists and anchors, many of whom had spent decades upholding standards of respectful discourse, expressed their dismay over the apparent erosion of decorum in modern television. Rumors began circulating within the industry that some network executives were considering disciplinary measures against Jonathan Miller, while others argued that his comments, however harsh, had sparked an important conversation about the role of symbolism in a rapidly changing society. The public response extended far beyond the media and political spheres. In urban centers from New York City to Los Angeles, coffee shops, barbershops, and diners buzzed with heated discussions about the incident. Ordinary citizens found themselves drawn into the debate. In local forums and community centers, people debated the appropriateness of using personal symbols as a subject of public scrutiny. For many, the incident became a microcosm of the larger cultural clash, a struggle between an appreciation for heritage and a desire to embrace modernity. Religious leaders across the country also weighed in. Pastors, rabbis, imams, and leaders of other faith communities condemned the disrespect shown to symbols of belief. In televised sermons and local gatherings, these figures emphasized that faith and tradition were integral to the identity of countless Americans. They argued that Jonathan Miller's comments were not only insensitive, but also emblematic of a broader societal trend where the sacred was being trivialized for entertainment. Public service announcements and community bulletins soon featured messages of unity and respect, urging citizens to look beyond sensational headlines and remember the importance of personal dignity and cultural heritage. Adding another layer to the unfolding drama was the international reaction. Major news networks in Europe and Asia picked up the story, comparing it to similar controversies in their own media landscapes. Analysts noted that while American broadcasters were renowned for their bold on-air challenges, this particular incident had pushed the envelope even further, prompting global discussions about the responsibilities of live television in a digital age. International commentators marveled at how quickly a single broadcast could ignite widespread debate, reflecting the interconnected nature of today's media ecosystem. Meanwhile, within the digital sphere, the online debate became a battleground for contrasting worldviews. Blogs and video commentaries dissected every aspect of the incident, from Jonathan's choice of words to the symbolism of the cross, while a growing number of citizens called for a re-examination of the standards governing live broadcasts. Forums and social media groups that had previously been quiet were now abuzz with spirited exchanges, as users sought to reconcile their personal values with the shifting norms of public discourse. Ultimately, the immediate repercussions of that fateful broadcast were profound. The incident had not only exposed the fissures within American society, but had also set in motion a cascade of discussions that would influence everything from media ethics to cultural policy. It was a moment when the power of television, amplified by the rapid pace of digital communication, forced the nation to confront a vital question. In an age where every word is instantly scrutinized, what is the proper balance between freedom of expression and respect for deeply held personal convictions? In the wake of the controversy and the widespread uproar that followed Jonathan Miller's provocative comments, an equally unexpected moment arrived: Melania Trump's response. Just hours after the scandal erupted, while pundits and social media influencers debated the incident from every conceivable angle, Melania chose to step into the spotlight with a poised and measured rebuttal. In a nationally televised address that was meticulously prepared yet delivered with an air of spontaneous conviction, she transformed the narrative from one of victimization to one of principled assertion. Taking the stage with a calm yet resolute demeanor, Melania began by addressing the nation in a tone that was both firm and compassionate. "I have always believed that personal symbols are just that, personal," she stated, her voice steady and clear. "The cross I wear is more than a piece of jewelry. It represents my values, my heritage, and the countless memories of the family and traditions that have shaped who I am." Her words resonated across living rooms nationwide, captivating viewers who had been on edge since the broadcast. With each carefully chosen phrase, she not only defended her choice but also questioned the ethics of those who would use such personal emblems as fodder for public spectacle. Throughout her address, Melania recounted the deep-rooted history behind her decision to wear the cross. She spoke of a childhood steeped in family traditions and of the lessons passed down through generations, lessons of faith, perseverance, and love. In a measured yet passionate tone, she explained how her father, a hard-working man of strong convictions, had instilled in her the belief that one's personal symbols were sacred. "This cross," she emphasized, "is not a relic of the past. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of our family and to the values that continue to guide me through life's challenges." Her remarks, delivered with an authenticity that could not be feigned, struck a chord with viewers who had grown weary of the relentless attacks on personal identity by the media. Rather than stooping to the level of bitter recrimination, Melania's response was characterized by a dignified restraint. She expressed regret that the public had been forced to witness such a divisive confrontation, a confrontation that, in her view, was fueled more by the hunger for ratings than by a genuine concern for truth. "It saddens me," she admitted, "that in our pursuit of sensational headlines, we sometimes lose sight of what truly matters, the respect we owe to one another as human beings." With these words, she not only refuted the host's disparaging remarks but also offered a broader commentary on the state of modern media and public discourse. Her address was interspersed with personal anecdotes that revealed a softer, more reflective side of her character. Melania recounted moments of kindness and solidarity from friends and even strangers, stories of people who had found comfort and inspiration in the values that her cross symbolized. These stories served as a counterbalance to the negativity that had dominated the earlier discussion, reminding the audience that behind every symbol lay a complex tapestry of emotions, memories, and hopes. It was a narrative that underscored the idea that traditions, far from being mere outdated relics, were living embodiments of the personal struggles and triumphs of everyday Americans. Moreover, Melania's speech carried an undercurrent of subtle defiance. While she refrained from directly naming her detractors, her carefully crafted phrases made it clear that she would not allow her identity to be weaponized for the sake of entertainment. "I stand by my choices, and I trust that those who value decency and respect will understand that our personal symbols are not up for debate," she declared, her voice rising with quiet determination. In doing so, she turned the tables on her critics, shifting the focus from a spectacle of insult to a thoughtful discussion about the significance of heritage and the right to self-expression. Her words rippled across the nation, prompting viewers to reconsider their own perspectives on tradition and modernity. In homes, schools, and boardrooms, people began to reflect on the delicate balance between preserving one's cultural identity and embracing change. Melania's measured, articulate response became a rallying cry for those who believed that dignity and respect should prevail over sensationalism and vitriol. By the time her address concluded, the tone of the national conversation had shifted noticeably. What had begun as an on-air confrontation had evolved into a meaningful dialogue about the values that bind communities together in an increasingly fragmented world. Melania's unexpected retort was not just a defense of her personal choice. It was a statement about the power of integrity and the enduring strength of conviction in the face of relentless media pressure. In the aftermath of her broadcast, social media platforms and news outlets reported an overwhelming positive response. Analysts noted that her stance had not only rehabilitated her public image, but had also reinvigorated a broader discussion about the responsibilities of public figures in shaping cultural debates. Melania's measured, dignified reply emerged as a turning point, a moment when the conversation shifted from personal insults to a renewed focus on the values of respect, empathy, and understanding in American society. In the days following Melania's impassioned address, the ripple effects of the incident became impossible to ignore. What started as a contentious exchange on live television had blossomed into a national phenomenon, drawing in voices from every corner of the country. Media analysts, political commentators, and everyday citizens alike found themselves locked in a vigorous debate over the boundaries of free speech, the sanctity of personal symbols, and the ethical responsibilities of broadcasters in a digital age. Television studios and newsroom roundtables across America began airing in-depth discussions on the incident. Prominent media critics dissected every aspect of the live broadcast, from Jonathan Miller's choice of words to the seemingly understated yet powerful response from Melania Trump. In long-form segments, experts argued that the controversy was symptomatic of a larger cultural shift, one where the tension between long-standing traditions and modern sensibilities had reached a critical juncture. Detailed analyses in newspapers and magazines compared the incident to historical moments of televised debate, emphasizing that the clash was not simply about a cross but about the evolving identity of the nation itself. Inside the industry, there was a palpable sense of introspection. Veteran journalists convened in private meetings to discuss the ethical ramifications of live, unfiltered broadcasting. Many lamented that the relentless drive for higher ratings had eroded the standards of civility that had once defined quality journalism. Editors questioned whether current practices, driven by the immediacy of social media feedback, had inadvertently encouraged hosts to push boundaries too far. Heated debates emerged over whether disciplinary actions should be taken against those responsible for the provocative commentary, with some arguing that such measures might stifle the robust exchange of ideas essential to a healthy democracy. The public's reaction, meanwhile, evolved rapidly from shock to thoughtful reflection. In bustling American cities, from the skyscraper-lined avenues of New York City to the sun-drenched boulevards of Los Angeles, civic discussion spilled over from living rooms and cafes into public forums. Community leaders organized town hall meetings and roundtable discussions, inviting citizens to share their perspectives on the incident. These grassroots debates touched on fundamental questions. Should personal symbols ever be used as fodder for public ridicule? How do we balance the right to free speech with the equally important right to personal dignity? Such conversations, conducted in public libraries, school auditoriums, and even online streaming platforms, underscored a collective desire to bridge the gap between tradition and modernity. Religious communities across the nation also became active participants in the debate. Pastors and faith leaders from churches in small towns and large metropolises alike condemned the demeaning use of a sacred symbol for entertainment. In televised sermons and local community gatherings, they called for a return to respectful dialogue and urged their congregations to reject any attempt to trivialize faith for the sake of ratings. The discussion was not limited to Christian communities. Leaders from various religious backgrounds joined in, emphasizing the universal need for respect and mutual understanding in an increasingly polarized society. International media outlets, too, had taken notice. Networks from Europe and Asia broadcast segments comparing American media practices to those in other parts of the world. Analysts marveled at the uniquely American penchant for sensationalism, yet also noted that the ensuing debate had revealed a deep-seated commitment to the principles of personal freedom and cultural heritage. These international comparisons provided a broader context for understanding the incident, highlighting how local controversies could spark global conversations about the role of media in shaping societal values. Online, the debate raged on in virtual town squares. Social media platforms became vibrant arenas for discourse, where hashtags were not only used to condemn the insensitivity of the host, but also to celebrate Melania's dignified response. Video essays, blog posts, and lengthy comment threads analyzed every nuance of the exchange, with some users drawing parallels to past controversies in American history. Influential bloggers and YouTubers hosted live streams, inviting experts to discuss the implications of the incident and the potential need for reform in broadcast journalism. These digital discussions revealed that the incident was far more than a fleeting scandal. It had become a catalyst for a national reckoning about how tradition, modernity, and media ethics intersect. In universities and think tanks, academic panels convened to study the long-term impact of the broadcast on American public discourse. Scholars argued that the incident provided a clear illustration of how media, technology, and cultural identity are intertwined in today's society. Research papers began to circulate that examined the incident through lenses as diverse as sociology, communication studies, and political science, each adding layers of complexity to the initial public outrage. The debate extended into policy circles as well, with lawmakers discussing the potential for new regulations aimed at ensuring that live broadcasts maintained a higher standard of respect and accountability. Ultimately, the national echo of the incident transformed it from a singular media scandal into a multifaceted dialogue that touched every aspect of American life. It forced broadcasters, politicians, and citizens alike to confront challenging questions about the nature of public discourse in the 21st century. As the initial shock subsided, a more measured conversation emerged, one that acknowledged the necessity of holding public figures accountable while also recognizing the importance of preserving individual dignity and cultural legacy. The discussion, rich with diverse viewpoints and passionate arguments, signified a turning point, a collective call for a media landscape that balances the demands of free expression with the imperative for respectful, constructive dialogue. In the weeks that followed the unprecedented media storm, America began to take stock of the far-reaching consequences of that one controversial broadcast. What started as a dramatic clash between a provocative host and a dignified figure had grown into a nationwide inquiry into the values that bind our society together. Scholars, policymakers, and cultural commentators embarked on a detailed examination of the incident, seeking to understand how a single moment on live television could reverberate through the very fabric of American life. At the heart of the analysis was the realization that the conflict between traditional values and modern sensibilities was not new. It was a struggle that had been simmering beneath the surface for decades. However, the broadcast had provided a powerful catalyst, forcing the nation to confront these underlying tensions head-on. Political scientists noted that the incident had illuminated the deep-seated divides within American society, divides that touched upon issues of identity, heritage, and the role of media in shaping public opinion. For many, the ensuing debate served as a wake-up call, a reminder that the symbols we choose to embrace are not mere accessories, but reflections of our collective history and aspirations. In response to the turmoil, major broadcast networks began to re-examine their editorial guidelines. High-ranking executives and veteran producers convened emergency meetings to discuss how future programs might avoid similar pitfalls. The fallout from the incident spurred an internal audit of broadcast ethics, with many networks pledging to adopt stricter standards of conduct in live programming. Industry insiders remarked that the incident had forced a reckoning with the relentless pursuit of ratings at the expense of journalistic integrity. The call for accountability resonated throughout the media industry, igniting discussions about the responsibilities of public figures and the need for a more balanced approach to controversial topics. Simultaneously, political leaders across the spectrum seized the moment to propose measures aimed at bridging the cultural divide. Lawmakers in several states initiated public hearings on media practices and the protection of individual rights, inviting community leaders, media experts, and citizens to weigh in on the necessary reforms. In Washington, debates unfolded on Capitol Hill about the appropriate role of government in regulating broadcast content without infringing on the cherished principle of free speech. These discussions underscored the complexity of governing a society that prized both innovation and tradition, a society where every word spoken on live television had the power to influence national discourse. Beyond the corridors of power and media boardrooms, the incident left a lasting impact on everyday Americans. In neighborhoods, offices, and school cafeterias, the conversation gradually shifted from outrage to introspection. People began to discuss not only the specifics of the incident, but also the broader implications for American culture. Community forums and local roundtables provided a space for citizens to share their personal stories that revealed how cherished traditions had helped them weather life storms and find meaning in times of uncertainty. For many, the incident was a reminder that while change is inevitable, the core values of respect, compassion, and unity must remain unassailable. Religious communities, in particular, found themselves reflecting deeply on the events. Leaders from churches, synagogues, mosques, and other faith-based organizations used the incident as an opportunity to reaffirm their commitment to the principles of tolerance and mutual respect. Sermons and community meetings echoed with calls for a return to civility in public discourse, emphasizing that while differences in belief are natural, the manner in which we express those differences should always be tempered by a spirit of understanding. This renewed focus on the sacred elements of tradition served to bridge gaps between diverse groups, fostering a sense of shared purpose even amid controversy. Academics and researchers, too, began to compile studies and reports that would eventually be cited as pivotal analyses of the modern media landscape. Conferences and symposiums were organized, where experts debated how the rapid evolution of digital media had transformed the way Americans engage with news and ideas. These discussions painted a complex picture, one in which technological advancements had democratized the flow of information, yet also amplified the risk of sensationalism and divisiveness. The incident had become a case study in media ethics, a vivid example of how a single broadcast could catalyze a broader societal re-examination of values and priorities. In the final analysis, the tumultuous events set in motion by that controversial live segment had come to symbolize something much larger than a mere media scandal. They served as a mirror reflecting the challenges and opportunities facing contemporary America, a nation at the crossroads of tradition and progress. Melania Trump's dignified response, coupled with the widespread public and institutional debates that followed, revealed an inherent resilience within the American spirit. It was a spirit that, despite deep divisions and momentary lapses into sensationalism, remained committed to the principles of respect, empathy, and constructive dialogue. As the dust settled, the lessons gleaned from the incident began to shape new policies and cultural narratives. Journalists and media professionals took a renewed oath to uphold standards of decency, while politicians and community leaders embraced the need for inclusive dialogue that honored the country's diverse heritage. Ultimately, the episode became a turning point, a transformative moment in which the power of live television, amplified by digital immediacy, compelled an entire nation to re-examine its values and reaffirm its commitment to a respectful, united society.